Now we are going to start with the new topic, that is the factors that affect the chemical equilibrium, right? But before we proceed, I want you to know that there is a certain principle that just guide that in which the direction or how the equilibrium will get shifted, or what are the factors that affect the, you can say, the equilibrium state, right? So before that, I'm just going to tell you the principle, that is the Lee-Chartley principle. Right. So what does this Lee-Chartley principle states? This Lee-Chartley principle states, suppose we have a reaction, like I'm taking an example, right? So we have this thing, the reaction this way, right, as I wrote in the board, that is A plus B forms AB, or we can say A and B are in equilibrium with the product AB, right? So what happens, it's according to Lee-Chartley principle, it states that when a reaction which is in equilibrium, right, when any reaction is in equilibrium and it is subjected to some kind of stress. Some kind of stress means, that means the stress here I mean is that we are altering the concentration, we are changing the condition of temperature, we are changing the condition of pressure, or we are adding certain amount of gas to it, or some other factor. These are the general factors which we will be discussing, right? Because these general factors just affect the chemical reaction in a direct manner, right? So what does Lee-Chartley principle states? It states that suppose we have a reaction which is in equilibrium and this reaction is subjected to some kind of stress. The stress can be the change in the concentration of either the reactant or a product, right? One of the reactant or two of the product, any kind, like that means only the change in the concentration, right? We are not concerned that the concentration of one reactant is changed or concentration of the other, any kind of change, right? So change in the concentration, change in the condition of temperature, either we are increasing the temperature or we are decreasing the temperature. Here I mean by this, pressure, again we are increasing the pressure or we are decreasing the pressure, or we are adding something, you can say, a inert gas to it, right? So this states that when any kind of stress, that means this, any kind of stress is applied to a reaction which is in equilibrium state, the equilibrium will, or you can say the reaction will shift in that direction in which the stress of that factor gets reduced, right? So what does it mean? It means when any chemical reaction is subjected to any kind of stress, then the equilibrium will shift in the direction in which the stress gets reduced, right? The factor which has been changed, its effect gets reduced. In that direction, the equilibrium will shift the direction, or you can say that that side of reaction will be more favored, right? Now I'll be just telling you that how this principle is applicable, or what kind of stress the equilibrium can be subjected to, and what kind of changes that can occur, right? So the first factor we are considering is the concentration, say. Here by concentration I mean that either we can change the concentration of one of the reactant, or I can change the concentration of one of the product, or I can change the concentration of all the reactants, or I can change the concentration of all the product. So that means we are just concerned with the change in the concentration, not with the you can say the amount of or you can say we are not concerned with how much amount it has been changed, right? So suppose I have a reaction A plus B, again I am taking a general example, AB, right? It isn't said to be in equilibrium, it has just reached the stage of equilibrium, right? So what I am doing, I am just increasing the concentration of this reactant A. So that means now this reaction is under stress, right? Now this reaction is under stress because in it the one of the reactant concentration is being increased. Now what is going to happen according to Lee-Chartley principle? So according to Lee-Chartley principle, equilibrium will favor that direction in which the stress gets reduced. So here the stress is that the increase in the concentration of A. So the equilibrium will shift in that direction in which this stress gets reduced. That means the concentration of A gets decreased because here it is in increased, so the stress can be reduced by decreasing it, right? So how we can decrease it? We can decrease it if the reaction will consume more amount of A and it leads to formation of AB, that means automatically the concentration of A will get reduced. So that means in this case, which reaction will be favored? Forward reaction will be favored, right? Similarly, if I increase the concentration of B, now suppose we are not altering the concentration of A, I am just altering the concentration of the B. So what I am doing, I am increasing the concentration of B. So that means equilibrium will shift in the direction in which the stress gets reduced. That means the concentration of B gets decreased, right? So that means again it will be combining to form the product, and that means the forward reaction will be more favored, right? So this is how you're going to explain. Now coming to the product side, right? So I am now increasing the concentration of product. We are not altering the concentration of A and B, not for the reactants. I am just altering the concentration of product, that is I am increasing the concentration of product. As we have only one product, so I am telling you that I am increasing the concentration of AB, right? So that means this reaction is under stress now because the concentration of product is being increased now. Now what will happen? How the stress is going to be reduced, or how we can reduce that stress? We can reduce the stress by decreasing the concentration of AB. And how we can decrease that? Yes, we can decrease it like if this product will get back converted into the reactants, that is the A and B, so automatically the concentration of AB will get reduced, right? So in this way, which reaction will be favored? In this case, obviously the backward reaction will be favored. So I think you have understood now that how the concentration stress affect the equilibrium, right? So that means if one of the concentration is increased, so what is going to happen? It will just shift into the direction in which that given substance, the concentration gets reduced, or we can say it will shift in the direction in which it will get more consumed, right? And similarly, if we can take an example for the decreasing one also, if I say that the concentration of A decrease or concentration of B decrease, either of them or both of them, right? So that means we need to have, now the action is under the stress, that is the concentration of A and B is very low, right? So how that stress can be reduced? By increasing the concentration of A and B, again we can just reduce the stress, right? So how we can do that? So that means again we need to increase the concentration of A and B, and how we will be doing that? If AB will be more broken down into A and B, then obviously it will lead to the increase in the concentration of A and B. So obviously in this kind also, what kind of reaction will be favored? Backward. So it is not a tough task to predict that what kind of reaction will be favored. What you have to do, just concentrate on it that yes, the concentration is increasing, so we need to have the direction in which the concentration just decrease. So just look at the product or the reactant or either of the side. So just if the concentration is increasing, just you can say, you'll say that the reaction will occur in that direction in which it gets reduced, and if it is reducing, we need to have more concentration. So just tell that yes, it will shift into the direction in which the concentration will increase. So this is how the concentration factor help in explaining you can say it is the factor that how Lee-Chartier principle explain the effect of concentration on the equilibrium, right? I'm just, I gave an example with the general equation. Now I'm just giving you an example with some reaction, a particular kind of reaction in which we'll get to see the colors as well, right? So I'm stating an example again for the factor concentration. So it is that we have ferric ions. They appear to be pale yellow. I'm just drawing a line here so that you should actually correlate that yes, it is the general example for the concentration and it is the particular example, right? So we have the ferric ion that is pale yellow in color, and we have SCN negative ions too. They just unite and form ferrous sulfocyanide this way, right? And the color of this ferrous sulfocyanide is reddish, right? So what is going to happen? How I am going to now change the concentration of reactant and product, and what kind of result we are going to have, right? So in the first case, what I am doing is I am just increasing the concentration of this ferric ion. I'm increasing the concentration of ferric ion, right? So that means the reaction is under the stress now. We need to put the reversible sign. Sorry, I forgot. Because it is in equilibrium, right? So we are just increasing the concentration of ferric ions. So what will happen? Equilibrium will shift the direction in that direction in which it gets more consumed. So obviously, which reaction will be favored? Forward reaction will be favored, because more and more Fe3 positive ion will combine to form FeSCN negative. And what result we will get to see? The reddish color deepens, or you can say it becomes more darker, right? Now, in the second case, what I am doing is, I am not altering the condition of this ferric ion, I am just increasing the concentration of this sulfocyanide ion. I am increasing it, right? So, what will happen? Again, we need a reaction, or you can say the equilibrium will shift in a direction in which this gets consumed. That means its concentration now decrease, right? So, again, which reaction will be favored? The forward one. And how you can predict it? The reddish color will deepen out, right? Again, now, for the third example, what I am doing, I am not altering the concentration of these and this, I am altering the concentration of the product. Right. So what I am doing, I am increasing the concentration of this ferrosulfocyanide ion. What happens then? So that means we need to have, obviously if the concentration is increased, that means again the reaction is under the stress, and the equilibrium will shift the direction in that direction in which the stress gets reduced. So that means they will start decomposing back into the ferric and sulfocyanide ions. That means which direction will going to be favored? Obviously a backward reaction. And how it can be predicted, or what can you can say the predictable change which you can see, that yes, the reddish color becomes somehow lighter. So that means that yes, the equilibrium is shift in that direction. As I took an example for the increasing one, you can similarly take an example for the decreasing ones. The only thing which will going to be change is that when we are decreasing the concentration of any one of the reactant or the product, the equilibrium will shift the direction into that direction in which the you can say the concentration just gets increased, right? So this is how you are going to attempt the factor for the concentration, the answer, that is how the concentration affect the equilibrium state, and what according to the Lee-Chartley principle, that concentration just you can say that obey that principle, how it obeys, right? And moreover, we have few applications based on the concentration. So first application I just want to discuss with you, so that you should know that where this factor is working in daily routine. So the first factor which is striking in my mind is that you see that whenever there is a breeze, wet clothes dry faster. That means if we have the breezy day, that means there is a breeze outside, then the clothes, the wet clothes which you wash, they get dry faster. Now, what is the reason for that? Again, it is the reason based on the Lee-Chartley principle, that is the concentration factor. Here, the equilibrium exists between the water in clothes, which is already present in clothes, that is making the clothes wet, right? And it is in equilibrium with the water vapor, which is present just above the cloth, or you can say just near the cloth. Now what happens when there is a breeze? So what that breeze is doing? That breeze is just carrying the water vapor which is present near the wet cloth with itself, right? So what happens? The concentration of water vapor decreases, right? So that means to compensate that decrease, what is happening? The clothes are losing vapor more, you can say more tremendously, right? So that means they are losing water at the faster rate just to compensate this loss, that is the water vapor which is carried by the breeze along with it. So this is the first factor, that see, if the vapor just moves, so that means the concentration just falls, so that means more water has to be more water has to be evaporate in order to compensate that loss. So that is why the clothes gets dry faster when there is a breezy day, right? Similarly, I have other application that is striking in my mind is that we sweat more on a humid day, right? So what is a humid day, first of all, tell me? Yes, the humid day is that when there is the water vapor, or you can say the moisture which is present in the atmosphere. So what happens at that day? We just feel uncomfortable more. Like if you have you can say more humidity outside, you will sweat more. So what is the reason behind that? So the reason behind that is the atmosphere has a lot of moisture in it, lot of water vapor in it. So that means the less evaporation of sweat take place, right? Because there is already water vapor, that means the concentration of vapor is already there. So that means it will favor that less water vapor should now come into the atmosphere, right? So that means the evaporation of the sweat will somehow decrease. So this is the reason that we sweat more in a humid day. But what happens if you are just sweating and you are just sitting under the fan, then what happens? Yes, what happens is that the air of the fan just take the water vapor which is present near your skin away from yourself, right? So what happens, that means the air which is present near your skin has now less amount of water vapor. So that means again the same thing, water vapor is getting reduced. That means the more water or you can say the sweating more occurs, or you can say the water just gets evaporated from our skin, leaving behind the cooling effect, and you feel comfortable in that way. But if in case you don't have fan, you are not sitting under the fan, or you don't have any kind of breeze, or you can say any kind of source of breeze around you, then what happens? You sweat more, because ultimately the reason is that there is already the water vapor. So if the concentration of water vapor is already there in the atmosphere, it will not allow the evaporation, or it will not allow the water vapor to escape more from your body to the atmosphere, right? So this is the reason. One more application which I would like to discuss with you based on our human body itself is you know that which gas we need to respire, right? What we breathe in and what we breathe out. So obviously we breathe in oxygen and we breathe out CO2, right? So what happens? That O2 which you inhale just pass through your respiratory tract, right? The nose, nasal cavity, you know everything, right? The windpipe, bronchi and primary bronchi, bronchioles, and finally it reaches the alveoli, right? Which is the actually part from where the exchange of the respiratory gases occur. And that alveoli is surrounded by tuft of the capillaries which contain the blood in it. But you know that the alveoli has more oxygen content, but the blood outside has the less oxygen content. So what happens? The oxygen from the alveoli just diffuse into the blood, and it just favors the formation of, like I'm telling you within reaction, we have hemoglobin which is present in blood. You know it is an iron protein. So it will just combine with oxygen and is in equilibrium with the complex it is going to form with the oxygen, that is the oxyhemoglobin, right? So what happens when the air reaches the alveoli? So that means the oxygen concentration becomes more, right? So what happens? It will favor the formation of more hemoglobin oxygen complex. So that means if the concentration of O2 is being increased, so that means it favors the more formation of oxyhemoglobin complex. But what happens when this oxyhemoglobin complex present in blood reaches the tissue? So what happens there? In tissue there is you can say the partial pressure of oxygen is less as compared to the blood which is just surrounding that tissue. So that means this complex now becomes more and this oxygen content falls. So that means it will now favor the backward reaction. That is why this hemoglobin oxygen complex just splits into the oxygen and the hemoglobin again, and this oxygen is just taken into the tissue where it is used for oxidation of food, you know that, to produce energy which is required for many metabolic activities of the body. So this is how, as I have told you with the daily examples related to your human body, that how this concentration factor is based on Lee-Chartley principle, or how it is affecting the equilibrium. Right. So this is the first factor, right? Now the second stress which we will be discussing is the temperature. So the second stress, that means the equilibrium is subjected to a new stress, and that stress is temperature. As you know what the temperature is, it is degree of hotness and coldness of a body. It is a degree of hotness and coldness of a body, right? So what happens? So I'll explain you again with the general reaction. Suppose we have a general reaction. This A plus B reactant, they are forming AB, right? If I say that this A and B combines with each other when only they are supplied with the heat. So obviously that means the forward reaction is a endothermic reaction. That means it will occur only if we will supply energy from the outside, or we can say the reaction which occur on the absorption of the energy, right? So obviously the backward reaction is going to be exothermic in nature. This AB will form AB, yes, definitely it will form. We know that the irreversible reactant form the product, and product has the capability to form the reactant back, right? So that means this AB can form AB only when the energy is evolved, or we can say the reaction of AB or the conversion of AB to AB occurs when there is the, you can say the evolution of the energy, or the energy is evolved, right? So what now here how temperature is going to act, right? So suppose I am just increasing the temperature. So if I am increasing the temperature, that means I am supplying the heat energy, right? Because we know temperature is the degree of hotness and coldness of a body. What we do, we just supply heat. When we are when we are increasing the temperature, we are supplying heat. When we are decreasing the temperature, we are extracting heat, right? So what I am doing in this case, first I am just increasing the temperature. That means I am supplying heat. So as we know that the forward reaction occurs when the heat is absorbed, and the backward reaction occurs when the heat is evolved, right? It is clear to you now. Now when I am just supplying the energy, that means when I am supplying the energy in the form of heat, which reaction will be favored? Obviously endothermic reaction, or you can say the reaction which occur at the cost of absorption of energy will be favored. As you can see in this reaction, which side shows an endothermic reaction? Obviously this side, when A and B is just combining to form AB. So obviously which reaction will be favored? Forward reaction, right? Now in the second example, what I am doing, because I can do either of, either I can increase the temperature or I can decrease the temperature. It is in my hand. So I am just taking into account that what happens when I am increasing it and what happens when I am decreasing it, right? So in the second example, I am decreasing it. So what happens when I am decreasing it? That means I am extracting heat. I am extracting energy in the form of heat, right? So that means that reaction won't be favored which needs heat, right? It is clear to you, right? So that means in this case we are just extracting heat. So that means which reaction will be favored? Obviously the reaction which needs the no heat or comparatively less heat. So obviously which reaction will be favored? Exothermic. And as it is clear from the above example, which reaction is exothermic? Yes, this one, where AB is getting converted into A and B. So that means which reaction will be favored? Backward reaction will be favored. So this is how just you have to put the equilibrium into a stress, as I am putting the stress in the form of temperature. So and you have to just make out that yes, which factor is going to, you can say that how the factor is going to just affect the equilibrium and which side of reaction will be more favored, right? This I explained you on the basis of general reaction. Now I am explaining, as we did for this FeSCN, I am just explaining this, you can say the factor with a particular example. This example is very important and you often get questions based on it. So just look at it carefully, right? So this is the example first of all based on the temperature factor. So before we start, you should know that there is an equilibrium between NO2 and